my fundamental principle or theory based on the mental state of a child, that the possibilities are infinite, for everything is possible, mind over matter. Therefore, as such, I believe that the human being is a miraculous entity that can exhibit supernatural abilities, though the reason that we don't is due to the lack of awareness and mental focus. Does the yogi philosophy allow for the parameters of such a theory?
The ability to awaken latent potentials is at the heart of the yogic inquiry. The idea of beginning to use our awareness to awaken a deeper intelligence within our own nervous system, and an ability to interact with the organismic processes such as breath and heartbeat and affect your heartbeat and even stimulate digestion and elimination. So these are kind of ground expectations a yogi would expect in beginning to interact with the organism, that there's improvement in the efficiency and aliveness and connection with the organism itself. And most often there's a corresponding balancing effect that occurs in the psyche as well, in one's personality, feelings, and mental state and mood, and then finally one's productivity in the world. You know, often we think of, when you go yoga, you go passive, but it's actually just the opposite. I've never worked so hard in my life, and it's effortless. But I mean, just take a look around the school, you know, it just happens. You know, somebody's back there schlepping. You know? And the more, it's like the, so it's that, I think that, yes, we are in a process whereby there's an inherent intuition that there's more to our capacity than what we've experienced, and it's worth digging around and experimenting and learning.
My whole discovery is possibly discovering steps in order for a human being to be inspired to follow in their own way, not specifically my way, but in their own way, in order to open up these latent energies and possibilities and capacities. And who knows, that maybe that would lead to the human evolution. But you talked about, you know, keeping strict times and bringing the mind back into the body, and that's all good, but you know, keeping strict timetables and routines and stuff, which to me is conformity. Now, I myself don't believe in conformity, but I'm just that kind of a soul that is totally, you know, a revolutionist. I love change all the time. I don't like routine. Anything that is a routine, to my mind, is like my mind says to me, you're putting me into a routine, and therefore you're going to try to now imprison me into a condition or a way of doing things, of being. That was my initial fear in the first couple of days when I first started yoga, when you first started saying, well, you have to condition your body, you have to do this. Maybe it was just the language itself that made my mind kind of shut down, because I don't like the language that's being used. But what is your thoughts on that?
My initial response is that it's one half of the polarity. To position yourself to allow an imposed sense of time, like a regularity around time, imposed upon you to be a confinement by definition, is a position before the experience. And immediately what comes to mind is the circadian rhythms in your own organism. You need darkness, you know, for the pineal gland to actually secrete melatonin. And without darkness, you're stimulated all the time, and people start to feel restless and anxious and sleep deprived and basically emotionally deprived. So to kind of position yourself that routine or regularity, the organism itself needs regular care, regular concern. So on some level, you get to make peace with the regularity, and it's kind of like what I was saying earlier about being a good parent. There are domains of our experience that actually need the intelligence that we have to look and see the cause and effect. If I don't take responsibility here, a mess builds up, and you know, it's okay for now, I don't have to do anything, but you know, sooner or later I got to do my laundry. But, you know, so that's okay, I just let it wait, and you know, then it becomes this thing, you know, that I'm working with. So we look at our experiences and we become more efficient at manifesting the things we really need. And I think being nonconformist about what we assume we need, that's a way to start to really work with it. Let go of these things that are occupying all my time and energy that are just, I feel drained at the end of it. But what is it that I invest myself in that makes a difference? And can I then it's not only just create a routine, but can I settle my whole beingness toward manifesting this? Like give myself to it. So in the same, like I was a painter for years, and I stayed up for 2 days and painted, and I lost sense of time and space, and that was great. And but on the other end of that, I also felt depressed and imbalanced, and sublimated in lots of ways. So I wanted the creativity, but there was another way to get to it that was satisfying and self-nurturing, and I learned through experience. And part of that is for me anyway, the same phenomenon. I want to have my art be the most important thing, and I want the freedom to express it. So I don't want to confine it. But on the other hand, I also want to live. So I want to live a full, balanced, healthy life. So on your journey, you're expressing something that's of great importance to you at this stage. As you were saying, there are stages, and you have to honor this wisdom that's coming through you, and make space for it and learn from it.
But yes, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think perhaps one part of it is to start to honor that process and really understand and bring awareness into my mind of what it's all about, instead of just being closed-minded about it and saying, no, I'm not going to experience that because I'm just against it. It's because I'm just worried that the mind, by conforming the mind too much, the mind will become boxed and not free to be creative and to do what it wants to do and to be free. And that's why, that is my fear, shall I say, of conformity. Because wherever I see it, every time I see conditioning taking place or regularity taking place, the mind gets stuck in that condition or regularity, doesn't want to move out anymore. It's like if you do yoga every day, then suddenly when you don't do it, you start feeling bad. Your body's like, oh my God, you haven't done yoga for a week. So I mean, what can we do to counterbalance?
Well, first of all, the mind is stuck. It's not gonna not be stuck ever. That's its role description.
Right.
Its role description is to take the moment and split it into two, and to say this is good or this is bad, or this is fear, or this is life supporting, or this is potentially death.
Right.
Dangerous. So the whole entire ego personality structure is based on the survival capacity to determine what appears to be evil and what appears to be good. So, and that's the bifurcation of experience. It's a cognitive process that occurs at the basis of the personality. So, and that's what the mind does. So what the yogis do is they say, well, this is the way the mind works. If you just understand it, you don't have to change the mind or try to even dissolve your personality. You just start to use that process to see that the dualities you create in your mind are actually part of a continuum. They're part of a polarity. So the yogis slow down. And when I say this is good or this is bad, you slow down and you start to notice this thing that's good, and you try to hold on to its goodness. And soon the goodness turns to attention. And the goodness too much becomes toxic. And then held on to at the expense of everything else becomes imbalanced, and that in itself now becomes pain. So there is no fixed assigned value to any given experience. It's part of an oscillating continuum of experiences that flow through. So the yogis park their awareness on the reality that experience itself has pluses and minuses, ups and downs, ins and outs. And those ins and outs are the mind, as we describe it. So, but who we are is not the thoughts that run through us or the feelings. Who we are is the ability to witness and to see ourselves in the conversations that we're in. So instead of trying to change yourself through changing your mind, witness your mind, and the witnessing itself wakes you up. You just see the ridiculousness and absurdness of little traps you're in. So it's about releasing the identification with the thoughts, the vrittis that occur.
Belief systems,
the
concepts, yeah.
Exactly. But it's not like to dismiss them or judge yourself for having made them or not even using them. They're parts of your life and your experience in which you need to continue to interact out of certain beliefs.
Wow, that's beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful the way you explained that.
I'm glad you understood something about it.
No, absolutely. I completely love everything that you're saying. I'm sorry if I'm not commenting, because I'm just allowing the experience itself to unfold. It's just beautiful. I've just never looked at it that way. And I'm a very mental person. I've always been about the mind, discovering the mind. Why does it work that way? What does it mean? But perhaps I've been too focused on what it's trying to do and how to free it, rather than, as you said, letting it be and letting it just be what it wants to be. Maybe maybe it's time to do that and see how that goes for me.